Ethan Young is officially pro for Waltz skateboarding. My most sincerest congratulations, Ethan. You are such a cool human being and an amazing skater. You deserve this and so much more. And this is his new pro model, the Prey. Reminiscent of the Huntington spoon nose, but arguably better depending on your preferences. I'm personally excited to talk about this shape and what kind of skater might like this shape as much as I'm starting to. But first, I want to be clear and transparent. I work for Mike Osterman at Waltz. We've worked together for over a year now. Mike did not sponsor this video. I wanted to make it myself, but I still think it's important that you know this. It doesn't change my opinion of the board, and this video is more about introducing what kind of skater might like the shape anyway, but I still think it's important to mention that. The fun stuff, as always, is getting into the design features and their advantages or disadvantages. And for reference, I skate the 7.6, but there is also a 7.4 available, and that's the one that Ethan rides. Now, I've never been a big fan of single kicks or spoon noses. I've always loved symmetrical double kicks. But after coming home from Germany this summer, I knew that there was some new tricks that I wanted to try that would be significantly easier on a single kick or a spoon nose, which is why I broke out the Huntington. I had my spoon nose sitting in the corner and decided to give it another try. And pretty quickly, I started getting a lot of lands that I was pretty proud of. So even though I knew Ethan's board was coming out and I was very excited for him, it wasn't until after I started getting used to the spoon nose, the Huntington, that I was personally now excited for the Prey to come out and I wanted the board for myself. So let's actually break it down and get into it. It is asymmetrical, meaning that the nose and tail have different profiles and kick angles. And in my opinion, symmetry is always a board's biggest advantage as well as its biggest disadvantage. I tend to prefer skating symmetrical double kicks because every trick feels the same no matter how the board moves. And the style that I most aspire towards would definitely benefit from a symmetrical deck. But when you have a different nose and tail, you can use that to your advantage. Some tricks feel better on one end than they do the other, so I end up skating with a bunch of preferences. I rather do tail stop underflips and finger flips off the flatter nose. When I do a popped trick, I rather use the more upturned tail. I tend to favor Caspers on the flat nose, and I like the tail for any footwork that slides or is scraping along the ground. So with an asymmetrical deck, I start to recognize what tricks work better where and start acquiring preferences based on that. I also do a ton of walk the dogs. Freestyle boards are also known for having very mellow concave. Concave is the slight upturn in the width of your board and sometimes includes kick angles depending on who you're talking to, but I'll be talking about them separately. Steep concave is great for flip tricks, but it can bite into your feet and catch on your heels. So freestyle skateboards tend to range from very mellow concave to no concave at all, literally flat boards. And that's because we like to dance around and shuffle our feet. The flatter the board, the more comfortable that tends to be. And while most boards tend to have radial concave that's circular, the spoon nose has tub concave, meaning that there is a flat section down the center of the board and these two little walls that come up on either side. The best of both worlds really, flat and smooth for footwork, but just enough concave and catch where you need it. Which is why I personally think it's one of the two standout features for this skateboard. But let's move on to kicks. The tail is on the wider side. It has a full shape with a seemingly square end, though it's not actually square, and this gives you a solid platform to grab on reverted tricks like the M80, which I haven't landed in a while, so I will be borrowing an old spoon nose to illustrate with, but it's a nice grab for spacewalks or impossibles if you could do those. I also like the slightly squarer and wider kicks for Caspers and truck stands as well. They aren't as flippy as the round nose, but they offer a really solid catch with a lot of surface area. So if I'm falling out of a Casper and need a better surface to land on, I might do that off the tail. And if I'm trying to flip out of Casper and not quite getting the spin that I want, then I probably want to do that Casper off of the narrower, rounder nose. The nose is also one of the two standout features of this deck in my opinion. It's a spoon nose, meaning this is not a single kick skateboard. It has a 6-degree upturn in the nose and does have a little bit of concave in the shape of a spoon. But because the kick angle is so low, it has a lot of the advantages of a single kick. It is very flippy, it's great for scooping under flips, it's good for nice poppy rail flips, and rolls over really nicely for a rail-to-rail, though the nose does have a different shape than the Huntington did, so it did take me a while to adjust my rail-to-rails to the new shape. I think it took me a couple full sessions before I actually landed a rail-to-rail again. And while the spoon nose is designed to excel at Caspers and 50/50s, it actually was the Casper that gave me the most trouble when I tried to switch from the Bixby to the Huntington back. I think I ordered one for the first time around February, and it was a struggle. I was so used to doing Caspers on a steeper kick that it actually took me a handful of sessions before I was able to rediscover that balance point. But once you have it, you have it. The spoon nose is so nice to Casper with. I was already able to get quite a few tricks that I was proud of on it. Not only did I land some of my staples that I've been working on for a while, but I got this new one, Truck to Casper, which for some reason I had never done before. But it felt and looked, I thought, really good. Finger flips also work really great with this flatter nose. So I was getting some really good attempts at these finger hard flips, as well as some great height on my rolling finger flips. Now I just need to work on getting those a lot faster. The wheelbase on the 7.6 model is 13 inches, which is my favorite wheelbase. I like a larger board and longer wheelbase for stability in rolling tricks, and also, as odd as it sounds, a slightly slower spin. I love rolling around and playing through tricks at a slightly slower pace, so the extra length and width works really well for my style. However, you can get the shorter wheelbase for quicker spins and more responsive movements. I personally struggle with the shorter wheelbases in general, but skaters like Ethan swear by their tiny boards and absolutely shred them. I just can't seem to get used to them. Right now I feel like it's just not really my style. Pop is the final piece of this puzzle. The tail does have some really nice pop on it though, so this is one of those tails that for me is kind of in between too low and too high, so I really like this kind of tail. Since I just skate flat ground, I don't need a ton of pop, but it gives me just enough to look good. As an ollie flip trick enthusiast myself, I do care about how well I can or cannot do ollie flip tricks on a skateboard, and the Prey does not disappoint. It has a mellow but just steep enough kick to pop off decent shove-its and ollie tricks, with the slightly upturned nose giving just a little bit of extra flip during flip tricks that your standard single kick just wouldn't have. And now that I'm thinking about it, I did add a couple risers to this setup for a little bit of extra pop and rail stability. I was actually surprised how easily I could do flip tricks on this. I was honestly a little worried that I wouldn't enjoy them on this board, but even though they're slightly rocketed, that's more of a skill problem and not as much of a board problem. I just found myself doing tons of kick flips and even heel flips on this board. And equally related to concave would be varial flips. Now, when I first started skating the spoon nose, I was working on varial kickflips for the very first time and couldn't even grab the edge. Every attempt I had looked like this. So I admit there was a time when I blamed the board's lack of concave. No surprise there, the problem was me, not the skateboard. There is enough concave to grab all of your favorite tricks. Extra concave is indeed helpful for something like that, especially if you're still working on improving those skills, but once you have the technique down, then you can really take it to any board, even a flat one, I'm sure. In the past, one of my biggest reasons to stay away from spoon noses has been the fact that I like ollie flip tricks so much. So I've been very pleasantly surprised this fall to find that I was able to do all and more of my ollie flip tricks on this board comfortably. Maybe because I expected them to be so much more difficult and then found out that they weren't, I was pleasantly surprised and ended up really enjoying them. And also, I don't really mind that they're rocketing at the moment. In fact, I kind of think that if I could get better, more leveled out ollie flip tricks on this board, then maybe I could get better flip tricks on any board. So there's a bit of a that's my thought process right now. I'm having really fun with those tricks on this board for some reason, which I think is really weird, but like I'm not mad about it, that's for sure. Funny enough, the trick that I found the hardest to do on the spoon nose was the ollie and the ollie 180s. I don't know, I mean, it's got to be a skill problem, but I really struggle with those tricks in particular on this skateboard. The board does come in 2 sizes, and to summarize the strengths and weaknesses of size in general, a larger version with a longer wheelbase makes it more stable and provides a larger platform to land on, but it also requires more strength to rotate and more power to flip, because it effectively flips and turns slower. A smaller version will respond a lot quicker and will flip a lot faster, even if you're using less strength, but it might feel less stable. Which makes it so perfect for Ethan, I think, because he's out there doing quad gymnast plant flips and very technical rail flips. The verdict is that I've enjoyed this board way more than I thought I would, especially coming from someone who's pretty much exclusively skated double kicks and has only kind of experimented with the spoon nose in the past. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised at how much I like this board. It's just a lot of fun. I find myself skating to its strengths when I'm on it. And I'm currently pairing it with the Utah 7.75, so I can go back and forth between my favorite symmetrical board and my now favorite asymmetrical board. I'm just really looking forward to seeing how I can push myself as a skater and develop my skills more on this new shape. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video.